Right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful that you were able to come here tonight. I much appreciate the fact that everyone is in proper attire in terms of masks. I'm going to start with the idea as to why are we meeting on July 8th when school does not start until September? And the answer to that is we are trying our best to be as transparent as possible to let you know what plans we have, that if we open tomorrow, this is what we would do. Please understand that all of this is subject to change, and I believe everyone knows that. Depends what happens with the virus. Depends on what happens with who gets ill and who doesn't get ill. There are so many factors involved. But if we open tomorrow, this is what we would plan to do. I appreciate your patience as I go through this. You have the handout, which I'm following myself, and please bear with me. We had questions, we had, I believe, 26 questions sent to Joseph with regard to that need to be answered during the meeting, and we will do that at the end. If you have questions, we have a little bit of a difficulty. Usually we give out cards. We ask you to write the questions down, we collect the cards. That's not going to work now. So if you have a burning question when we're done, because we'll answer a lot of questions as we progress, I'm going to ask you to email Jay, I'll give it to you later. It's Joe Bigrill at hopatcongschools.org, and we'll answer that. I don't know that we can come up with any more questions. We're averaging about 270 emails a day, and a large number of them have to do with what we're trying to put together. First item I'd like to review, which you've seen on the second page, they are key statements from the governor's roadmap document. We are very grateful that we received a lot of leeway in terms of how a local district puts together a plan to reopen. That leeway is vital, not only for our district. We are different in terms of our clientele and our schools than many of the other districts in the county. Also, part of our plan involves doing things differently at each school if necessary, so that things are developmentally appropriate to the age of the children who are going to those schools. So, we have a district restart committee, we have a school-based pandemic committee. Principals have been doing an excellent job getting together with their people to put together a plan for their school that fits within the district plan. The guidelines given to us by the state are as follows. School staff and visitors must wear face coverings. Students are required to wear face coverings when social distancing cannot be maintained. Now that's a question that has come up a lot. I don't want my child to wear a mask. At the risk of sounding blunt, there may be times when a child has to wear a mask because we cannot guarantee social distancing. So, in our classrooms, and I've had principals with yardsticks measuring how big the rooms are, how many chairs and desks they can fit in. If their tables were divided by plexiglass, they've done a good job in identifying how many things can fit in each room. And I believe our plan will allow us to do that. But on the bus, we cannot guarantee social distancing, and masks will be required. When arrival and dismissal, it will be necessary for kids to have masks on, same as it will be for staff.
And Mr. D, it's important to know, I don't think you can hear me. It's important to know that we don't have, a lot of this is not our choice, right? So I know that some of you are going to disagree with a lot of the plans that are laid out. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with the way some of the plans are laid out, but truthfully, we're taking a lot of this based on orders from the government. So when it comes to masks, we could all have a different personal opinion, on masks, and trust me, I know we do, but when it comes to the executive orders, the governor has not given us a choice. He says when social distancing cannot be maintained, we have to have masks on, and that's for the students. For the teachers, they always need to have masks on. This is not our plan, this is the state. So that can change, but I want to be clear with you on what's our choice and what's coming to us from the governor, in which case we have to implement those rules.
Mike out. Schools must provide reasonable accommodations for staff and students who are at high risk. So if we have children with diabetes, we have children with asthma, we have kids who have significant allergies, we must make accommodations for each of those youngsters. Same with staff. We have staff members who come from significant medical circumstances in their lives. We will provide accommodations for those staff members to the degree that allows them to do their job as much as possible. That might mean that some teachers do their job in their homes. Their classroom will be covered by a certified person, and that instruction will go on. School districts must minimize the use of shared objects, ensure indoor facilities have adequate ventilation, prepare and maintain sanitizing stations. If you go into buildings now, sanitizing stations are all over the place. Each classroom will have the sanitizing equipment, and certain desks, for example, teacher desks will have plexiglass on them. If student desks be social distances, there will not be a necessity. But in any situation where there are too many kids, you're going to have to come up with a circumstance that solves that issue. I don't think we're going to have that problem. Again, maybe the plan is going to move forward.
Mr. D, there is a concern on the live stream. People say that they can't hear you when your mask is on and when you're going through the microphone. So if you hold the microphone back a little further.
Yes, sir.
You can tell I'm taking questions live. This is the real deal.
Schools should maintain social distancing practices to the maximum extent practicable. That is a big word for us. Okay? For example, we spend $750,000 a year on transporting kids to school. If we had to double run those buses, we would have to come up with a $750,000 amount of money out of a budget that's already cemented, that can't be changed. That would be impossible. So what part of the design of the plan is to try to ensure that our school buses are not overcrowded at any time. Again, this is right out of the governor's report. Maintaining social distancing is not possible. All students who are able must wear face coverings while on buses. The district must provide physical guides such as tape on floors, signs on walls to ensure social distancing. There are restrictions with regard to cafeterias. We cannot do family style. We can't have kids lined up behind each other. We can't do buffet style dining. So one of the items that we will put forward is that we will provide bag lunches for kids, but they will be taken home because we will be going on an early dismissal 4-hour day.
All right. Can we? Sorry, you're watching. We're breaking crossing the curtain here, and you're going to see some behind the scenes. Can you try speaking without the microphone and let us know in the back if you can hear us? Because I think without the microphone, you won't have as much echo in the camera. I'm getting nonstop emails from people watching at home. This guy, I know he can project. What? Let's watch him.
Despite my old age, Mr. DiBenedetto still plays music in the band, can sing a song, and his voice projects. So I'm moving now. You can't see me on camera. That's good. So, as I said, lunches will be served box lunch style. The reduced lunches will still be in effect. Students say why lunches, those lunches will go home
50 students. Next item is not applicable because we will not be utilizing students in the cafeteria for eating. Recess must be staggered by groups, and staff must disinfect playground equipment between uses. We will have recess, but we will not use the playground equipment until we get the records covered. Our response to the government is informed by our plan. Everybody agree? We're looking at 4-hour live sessions in each school with students divided into A and B groups. For 1 week, students in Group A will come to school regular time in the morning, 4-hour day dismissal. Meanwhile, students in Group B will be home using virtual learning.
Art. Stand in one spot, don't move, but use your big voice.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can.
Eyeball, how you say in English? Translate.
Got it, there we go. All right, I'll try this again. 4-hour live sessions with students divided into groups A and B for a week. Group A will come to school for a week. Group B students will be on virtual learning. That will switch the next week. At each school, for example, students at the Hopatcong High School will have periods 1 to 4 on one day and periods 5 to 8 on the next day. As stated, the groups will switch each week. Regular time start, 4-hour dismissal. We will have some sort of recess, but it will not be using playground equipment, and no lunch. Under consideration, as I said, this is not cast in concrete. Input from our school community will be assistive in making final decisions. We can most likely have kids on virtual instruction come to the school during the week that they're not supposed to be there. That would especially help families with childcare issues. We can comfortably do that at the high school. If we are in week A in school, week B kids would be similarly dispersed like you are, socially distanced, and do their virtual instruction in the gym. We possibly can do that at the middle school too. We cannot do that at Tulsa Trail. The room is just not big enough. However, if we have hardship cases of families in need, we might be able to serve a small number of kids in that capacity. Again, these are considerations, these are not cast in concrete. We have a difference at Durbin Avenue. At Durbin Avenue, we've had some number of first graders opt out. They want just virtual. So we can run all first grades for the 4 hours each and every day of each and every week. That makes sense? Did I articulate that right? First graders will come to school every day. Kindergarten will not. Kindergarten will be on an A-B schedule. We will schedule the A-B kids in a manner where all kids from one family are on the same schedule. We do have a number of special education classes with kids who are both at risk and who have significant handicapping conditions. We will allow students in LLD classes. We will allow students in multiply disabled classes, and we will allow students in behavioral classes to attend full-time. The numbers in those classes tend to be much smaller, obviously. That allows us to be able to do that. We are considering ways to minimize out-of-class pullouts for special education-related services. Try to concentrate their therapies during the week they're not in school. This way, a 4-hour day is already shortened, and they miss less time for speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. We will ask our teachers to make sure that they have the ability, technology-wise, and that means we'll probably be purchasing a number of these cameras in their classrooms, so that when they're teaching, Group B is in 1 week, the Group A kids can latch on during the school day from home, or in some cases from the large area that we're going to put forth at the middle school and the high school if we can. Mr. Piccirillo, whose voice does not project as well as mine, will give you data from the community survey that we took.
And as we speak, we're getting questions pouring in from people on the live stream, which makes me happy because it switched from complaints about the sound to questions, which means they hear us. So that's good. But many of you have received a community survey. We received over 700 responses, which is a tremendous response rate. The percentage of parents not planning to send their children to school in person is 24.5%. Now, I understand that may change, and that's as of right now, without knowing the whole picture. But I think that's an interesting number to have, because I'll say, I always give her credit. Principal McFadden said, I bet you it's going to be 25%, and it's 24.5. So I said, A+. Percentage of parents sending their child to school without using the bus is 41.1%. That's a huge number. It's a huge number. So again, this is from over 700 parents.
Joe, could you explain how with 25%, if those numbers were to hold, 25% not coming to school doing virtual, and 41% being transported for parents, what does that do to our school buses in terms of social distance?
Yeah, so remember, I'm going to talk slowly for the echo here. Remember, we're taking direction from this over 100-page document. In that document, it says that they suggest social distancing on a bus. But where practicable, and when it's not practicable, students should wear a mask. So to do social distancing on a bus, you would need 10 kids for a bus of over 50, that seats over 50. We're not going to be able to do that, but if you take 60% of those kids, well, that does a very good job of lessening that. And then with masks, we feel that we could do this very safely. Of course, it's always going to be up to the parent. If they want to bring the child to school, they can do that. But I think we're going to be able to do it in a very safe way.
Please note that if you've completed the survey and you change your mind, there will be another survey. Please note that any decisions made now are subject to change on your part. We will work with you 100%. So as I said, we have a district restart committee. We have pandemic response teams at each school. These are the meetings where we get the most input. And we will have additional single issue meetings this summer, at least 2. We get, as I stated, a significant number of emails with suggestions. Some of them are great. Some of them are a little bit out of left field, but we love it, the idea that people are thinking, and it's pretty amazing as to what is coming forward to us. Some of the things we do come from left field. We realize that. We're all in this together. Joe, I would like you to go through the set of questions that were put forth electronically, and then we'll give people another opportunity to ask additional questions. These questions cover a lot of stuff.
Let me speak directly to the camera. Okay, so we're getting lots of questions here. I'm going to go through them one at a time. Your question may be some of the questions that are asked. First, how will we do temperature checks for students? Let me answer this. In the governor's plan, temperature checks were not a requirement. So we do not plan, as of right now, doing temperature checks. I do not think that we could do it in a way that would not waste an incredible amount of time. The governor did not require this. So temperature checks for students, and the second question here relates to temperature checks for faculty, is not something we would do. We are required to screen, and so we are in the process now of determining in a way to screen students and faculty for symptoms prior to each day.
Joe, let me elaborate on it.
Go ahead.
It's not feasible, let's say we have 300 kids showing up to the middle school. It's not feasible to accurately temperature check those kids, even with the new thermometers that are non-contact and things like that. I had to go to a rehearsal last night for something. I had my temperature taken at the door with the non-contact thermometer. It was 94.3. I should have been dead. I wasn't. The accuracy of these items presents some difficulty. We have purchased extra thermometers. We have a roving nurse has been hired. So for 4 schools, we now have 5 nurses, because we believe that an additional nurse will be something that will be beneficial to the situation. But this is a tough one. The responsibility of a child's temperature is the parent, because no child with a temperature should be put on the school bus. So we're sharing some responsibility here. If you have a child going on a school bus or in your car, that child's temperature should be checked prior to coming to school. We're going to be in a tough situation if we have a child come to school with a fever and you're working in Paramus. We don't have a lot of isolation areas to put kids. We're building them now this summer. But if I have 2 kids with fevers, that presents a major worry. So, and you'll get all this again over and over this summer. But it is a parental responsibility to take the child's temperature to make sure that that child can come to school. Additionally, in the fall, the school buses are warm. Kids come to school, sitting in the bus, they're somewhat sweaty, they have to cool down. We have to have 4 hours a day of instruction. We have to get the kids in as soon as possible, because we need to instruct them for 4 hours. So those are some of the challenges that I said we have that I'm sharing with you. And again, always feel free to put your input out. Thank you, Joe.
Related to the previous question, if a faculty member has a fever or a student has a fever, what is the precaution or the procedure for them coming back to school and back to work? So to answer this question, we realize not all kids that have a fever or all people that have a fever have coronavirus. But if they test positive for coronavirus, we would have to have a doctor clear them to come back to school. So that's just true. The next question's here.
Joe?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Remember the difficulty that's presented. Somebody gets COVID, we have to trace whereabouts or contact the kids on the bus. That entire bus has been contacted. The kid is in the classroom. That classroom has been contacted. So we have our worries about that. That's why we're stressing the idea that if your child doesn't feel good, don't give them 2 Tylenols and send them to school. We can't take a chance.
But we do, Katie is helping me answer questions here, and she said I didn't answer the question. Okay, so we do have a fever procedure that we've made 72 hours. So we will have a fever procedure. But my point is, not all with fever have coronavirus. Related to faculty members, can they work from home if they have COVID, if they are asymptomatic but test positive? We're working with teachers case by case to work reasonable accommodations. To me, that would seem an opportunity to work in accommodation. That would be a situation where a teacher could not go back to work, but was willing to work. So I think we would be willing to work with them.
I must say that many districts are having challenges with the teacher unions. Our association has been excellent. I meet with them a lot, I met today. Our association knows that we need flexibility in a situation like this, and I'm very thankful to be working with them. Our union has been excellent.
Our fans are asking you to stay behind the podium. Mr. D, why were the pre-K and MD programs, why are they getting out significantly later than years prior?
That is not a question related to our topic tonight, but very briefly, the time difference is exactly the same as last year. We're just starting school a little later, so we're not in the same situation we were last year when buses were coming in late, and we had kids waiting and waiting and waiting.
Will there be an option for students to do 100% virtual learning? The answer is yes. How will attendance be taken for those students? We are currently working on ways to do that. It could be something as simple as a Google form to something like a summative, or rather a formative assessment, where a teacher would recognize a student was working and he or she could just mark them as present. Will teachers be responsible to teach online and virtual students? Yes. Will students be required to wear a mask when they are not able to maintain social distancing? Yes. Will band run as a class? Yes. It will look very different. Any instrument, of course, that has, by definition, a spit valve, you can't reasonably expect that we can have them side by side. So it's going to look different, but will band kids still get band instruction? Yes. Will there be a foods class? Yes. To social distance in the kitchen is not practicable without a mask, so they'll wear a mask. Why can't high school students have the same classes every day with shorter periods? Mr. D discussed the concept of having blocks of half the day, periods 1 through 4, and then the next day, periods 5 through 8. That's because it's best for instruction. If we had very short periods every day, it would be hard for teachers to get started. So this is our best way at getting real learning in. Nothing we give is going to be ideal. Next, will special services, OT, PT, speech be impacted? Well, no, we will still offer PT, OT, speech as per IEP. Students will go to a separate room. I can't have a PT come into a room when they're just dealing with one kid. So those students will travel. They'll have to wear a mask in the hallway if they can't social distance. Will there be no PE at all? Well, no. There will be PE. Physical education, physical education may be offered in a more virtual setting where students are given work to do at home. But understand, I realize this is not ideal. I see heads shaking. I shook my head when I read the 100 and several page report. But especially in light of the most recent executive order that the governor is asking people to wear masks outside now, it becomes very difficult to have them change, to have them running, exerting a lot of effort with masks on, not able to share equipment. They put lots of very restrictive measures on us. So there will be physical education, but it may not look the way it's traditionally looked.
Remember, physical education teachers also are responsible for health instruction. There will be health instruction. And as I said, no recess, no use of the playground, but students can get exercise, as many of you do, via walking. So there will be walk-run programs where kids will be supervised walking on the school properties. So there will be some activity, but the games that they play, if you come to the high school and you see kids playing badminton or basketball, that is not going to happen for a while.
Will masks be provided for student and staff? Look, we would hope that students would come with masks, teachers would come with masks. If something happens, there will be masks available, but to provide them each day for the whole staff and students, fresh ones would get to be very cost restrictive. And I would imagine if they're going to ride the bus, that they would come with a mask to start.
I did the math on masks, just simple masks. I would need 400,000 masks in a school year if I had to give one to each child and each staff member. I have thousands of them in my office. Right now, we're ready to go, but I don't have 400,000. 400,000 masks would cost the district $600,000. I know some of you don't want to hear my financial woes, but you have to make a difficult decision. And as I said, our budget is cast in concrete since last spring. I can't come up with $500,000 out of the blue.
What about weeks that are partial weeks, such as school opening, Thanksgiving, teachers' convention? How will those work with A and B weeks? An A week is an A week, a B week is a B week. I'm sure if this goes on for a very long time, there'll be snow days or other things thrown in. I can't get in the business of changing the weeks. I'll drive you all crazy. So A weeks are A weeks, B weeks are B weeks. What about students that don't have internet or devices at home? That was part of the survey. Everyone's going to get internet that needs it. If people need a device, we will get that to you. Another question about this is related to one-to-one Chromebooks. Mr. D, you want to address who will get a one-to-one Chromebook?
Yes, for example, second grade, those students who need a device because A, there's not one at school, or B, the one at school is being used by mom or dad for work at home, we will provide those Chromebooks. We put federal money aside that we received for the purchase of Chromebooks to assist families. Same with internet. We can give you a live internet a station in your home. We did it last year when we had the 3 months off. Very few people needed it, and we were able to provide it for families that asked for it. I am not sure if every family that needed it asked for it, but anyone who did ask for it received hotspot internet.
What happens if someone gets coronavirus in school? Will parents be notified of students that test positive, and will the schools close? Well, we can't notify you of particular students that have a health condition that is a violation, but we will tell you that there's been a case of coronavirus, that your child may have been in contact with someone. Then the next follow-up question is, will the schools then close? I can't predict what will happen. Look, is it possible that we open, a couple of kids get coronavirus, God forbid, and the whole school closes down? Yeah, I guess that's possible. But that I think if you ask me hypothetical questions, I may be answering these all day.
I'll give you another hypothetical.
Don't do it.
God forbid, we have an outbreak amongst, remember, our staff, if you look at our salary line, it's very stacked at the top because we are very experienced people. Those teachers are not young. God bless them for what they do.
I can speak because I'm not young either. I'm gonna hit 70 next month. I need to tell you that if we have an outbreak, we're gonna close and do virtual instruction. I'm not putting anyone's life at risk. If things happen, we're gonna make a quick decision.
Okay, we have a lot more, so I'm going to go quickly. What about free reduced lunch for weeks that students aren't at school? We'll get them lunch. They may go home on Friday, the week prior, with a backpack full of non-perishables, but we'll make sure that they're fed. Can masks for teachers be ordered that allow their faces and lips to be seen? That was a concern primarily for the younger students working on different speech and reading skills. It's a good concern. We are looking into it. We've had conversations with the principals about this. What if you don't want your child to wear a mask? Can we as parents have our children go to school without them? This is a health concern for some of our children. We have a right to not, okay, this is a long one. Mr. D, what if they don't want to wear a mask?
So here's the situation. My child has asthma. A mask is inappropriate for that child. That child will not be required to wear a mask. That child might need additional accommodation. That child might need virtual instruction, or the child might need to come into school just for therapies. We'll work all of that out on an individual basis, just as we are with staff members who need accommodations. So it's hard to say. There's no rule for everybody. Okay, it'll be done on an individual circumstance with the idea that we're here to serve kids.
Will students have specials? Yes. Specials will go into classrooms, though. They won't go to the specials classrooms. That's to keep students in one place. What about American Association of Pediatrics regulations, which say, this is an informed parent, which say you can have 3 feet distancing instead of 6. Well, we don't follow those regulations. I did see that report. We follow what our state and county Department of Education requires. So again, social distancing of 6 feet where practicable, and when not practicable, students should wear masks. So can there be students 3 feet apart from each other? That may happen, but then they're going to have to wear masks. That's not my rule. That's from the governor. Another thing about masks, we answered that. Mr. D, please stay behind the podium. How are sanitizing procedures different than normal?
We've essentially purchased equipment that allows us to sanitize in a more efficient and quick manner without any danger to the custodial staff. Okay? Now it's interesting. We're not allowed to have alcohol products, alcohol cleaning products in the schools. Well, we will have alcohol cleaning products in the schools because you need 70% alcohol in order to kill the virus. So the sanitizing has become more efficient through use of special equipment and special items that get applied, and it'll be done in a safe manner. Every room in the district will be sanitized fully overnight. And I have a question today when I met with the union. What happens if I'm a 7th grade teacher and the child's art teacher is coming in for a period? Who's going to sanitize in between? And I put forth the idea that our staff needs to be a little more Spartan in how they have stuff out on their desks and on their tables. They need to put away a lot of stuff. If you're teaching 25 years, you've got a lot of stuff. And teachers need to be able to do away with some of that so that sanitizing becomes a more simple process. But we will wipe down tables. They will not share computers. If I'm a visiting teacher to a 7th grade classroom, I'm bringing my own laptop. I don't have to worry about using the desktop or the laptop that's in there.
Okay. Will there be snack at the elementary grades? You bet. What about security concerns? If all students are wearing masks, there's a fire drill or shelter in place and you can't quickly visually identify students? It's a good question. It's one that I think with our plan, more students will be in one spot for more of the day. So that should help tremendously. It won't be as many students traveling between different classrooms, but that is something that's another point to the visual masks. We'll have to consider that. How will class size be impacted? Mr. D, do you want to address class size?
Class size will be significantly smaller than usual with the A and B schedule.
And one person asked a follow-up to class size, what's the maximum class size that still has us within the restrictions? I can't answer that because every classroom is different, but I do know we have principals going around with yardsticks, and I'm not exaggerating. So we will go as much as we possibly can. When will we receive final schedule times and final plans? We will put this up on the website. It will be clearly marked on the website, and if it changes, I will update that as soon as it changes, and I will put revised in the date, so you always know you're looking at the most recent information.
That is your information source. I respect people's use of Facebook and social media, but the source of your information, the official source, will be constantly updated on the website. And we ask humbly that you use that as your information, because it doesn't take much to have some outrageous rumors begin when social media is involved.
Mr. D, how will AlphaBest be impacted?
I met with AlphaBest yesterday. They will expand their hours to cover families that are in need. They will have a minimum of 1 staff member to 10 students. They too will enforce social distancing. Had a good meeting with the head of the group yesterday. They are supposed to send me their most updated information, and we will make sure that every family gets it.
What about siblings that go to different schools? How will their A-B schedule, will it accommodate for that? Yeah, we're already looking at that. So we wouldn't put one sibling on an A day, another sibling on a B day. We would arrange to avoid that. There are many questions about individual building schedules. We will post all of this in black and white so you can see it. There is a question about the 100-page document I just referenced and if it will be made available. Yeah, it's public information. I think I did recently put it on our social media, but I can have it put up on our website. Can we put that on our website, Katie? Probably. We can link that so you can read it. I don't know why you would want to do that to yourself, but that's okay.
It was a punishing document.
There's a good question. When is our plan due? The end of this month. We have to have it to you a month before school starts. So you'll see other school districts were quick to release their plan. I saw no reason for us to be quick to get it wrong. There's no prize for the first person out the gate. What we're doing is we're looking at other plans of many other districts. We're trying to take the best of what we see, and if I tell you I respond to emails all day, that's not an exaggeration. I'm really trying to take the comments from the community and the teachers and administrators to get this right. So we're not going to release a final plan until we have to. Good question here. If a child is sick, can they instead go virtually and have that day counted? And if it snows, as a forward-thinking parent, can they go virtually?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's all on the table.
Like I said, we're here to serve kids. It would be foolish for us to say no to that question. It's a great question. A lot of the questions we have are really good questions. I'm telling you, I'm very impressed with our clientele parents. Okay,
I have a lot here. I'm going to try to go quick. If a child is a one-on-one aide, will that aide have to still social distance? This says my child sometimes needs a hug.
Hugs are not forbidden in Hopatcong.
Yeah, that makes me really sad. All right. Okay, question about bathrooms. Basically, I'll make this short. If a bunch of little ones have to go to the bathroom, we're trying to restrict and social distance. Look, we're not going to have any kid pee their pants, okay? I hate to be crude, but look, if it's an emergency and we're going to end up not socially distancing in the bathroom, we're going to have to ask the kid to put a mask on and have them use the restroom. I know this is rough, trust me, but I'm not going to put kids in a position that they're wet in their pants. It's not going to happen. Question about asthma, Art, you answered that. Okay, good question. So the question's about when a child is home virtually, will they be doing something similar to how virtual was done this year, or will it look different? It will look different. We're looking right now at ways to, and this is a word no one used until coronavirus, to do instruction synchronously, which means the instruction that's happening in school, I'm a child at home watching that live feed and in class in live time, asking questions on the computer to the teacher in live time. We didn't do that this year, but we're looking into ways to do that this year with cameras. I believe we'll be able to do that. The next question is, will students be on video? No, we would avoid that. The camera would stay on the teacher. What if a child missed that video time? Well, we're working to record that so a child can view it later. There's many questions related to that. So where possible, we'll be looking to do synchronous instruction that is virtual rather than asynchronous. Here's a question for you. How does coronavirus and our coming back to school, how is that impacted by our insurance coverage and our liability? If a child gets sick, are we going to take a hit as a school district?
This sounds like a curt answer, but we have very good liability insurance because, as you well know, New Jersey is one of the major states in the union where litigation results from things that you would think were common sense. So we're well established with insurance. It's not a worry that I have. Would I be surprised if we get blamed for somebody getting ill? I would not be surprised. Some districts are making parents sign waivers to get kids on the bus. I will not do that. I think that's inappropriate. They're asking parents to sign a waiver which says you will not sue the district if the kid gets sick from something on the bus. Well, first of all, isolating something to a specific area is very difficult. And B, I just don't think that is a user-friendly thing to do for our clientele.
Okay, that was beautiful. Okay, there was a question about clarification on Tulsa Trail. I'm getting a few of these, so we might have to clarify.
Tulsa Trail's all-purpose room is very limited. I don't think if we're having an A week, I don't believe all the B kids could fit in the all-purpose room. At the high school, I might be able to do that between here and the auditorium. At the middle school, we may be able to do it between the cafeteria and the gymnasium. But at Tulsa Trail, that is a difficulty. Remember, we cannot offer something to a few parents without offering it to all parents. So we have equity issues. I said to Joe, perhaps we can just let kids whose families have childcare problems in. Joe's doing his doctoral work on ethics and equity. He knows all the answers to this stuff, okay? We're considering it. That's why it was under considerations. we would need parental cooperation for something like that. But you might get a survey, if you're a Tulsa Trail parent, you might get a survey saying, would you send your child to school on an off week? Would it help you? And if the numbers were reasonable, because parents had a choice, we might be able to do it equitably. Make sense? Not sure
Good.
if that makes sense.
No, there's, people are funny. People are messing with me now. All right, another question. I think I answered this one. When we have to make a final decision, that's the end of this month. More questions about the snow days. We answered that. When is the last?
We can make a decision by July 31st, and it can change August 10th, you know that. That's a given.
When do we need to when do parents need to make final decisions to opt in or out of bus, opt in or out of virtual instruction?
As I said, we will, again, not all districts do this. You have the right to change your mind. If we can't do it at a certain time of the year, if we're still doing this, we'll let you know. But as much as we can, we will honor your wishes if they change. If mom is home and dad is working, but mom gets a job and they need a change in something, we'll work with them.
There are many questions related to this, so I hope I cover them all here. How will we enforce wearing masks? What will be the punishment for not wearing masks? And who is eligible to not wear the mask, and what documentation do they need to make for that accommodation?
I'll go backwards. If your child has a need, as I use the example of asthma. If a child is asthmatic, we're not going to have that child wear a mask if a parent requests, and if we have a doubt and we ask for a doctor's note, that's all you would need for that, okay? We always have the right to have the school physician assist us in decisions, but as I said before, everything is an individual basis. There's no rule A or rule B. Is the kid going to get in trouble if they don't wear a mask? No. The challenge is for educators is to educate that child about the importance of the mask, and our job is to get him or her to wear it when necessary. That is not a punishment. That is something that we should be able to do. Now, if Mr. Benfatti gets in front of a little kid, there's a better chance the kid's going to wear a mask. But we're not out to punish kids because of this. We're out to make this an educational process. There's an opportunity here for us to address items that we never can address in school because we're always into the subject matter. I talked to the union today. I said, wouldn't it be great if the first days of virtual instruction for kids who are home centered on SEL, what does that mean?
Social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning as opposed to subject matter. Wouldn't it be great if we use the first day or two of virtual learning to survey the child and find out what are the best ways that kid learns? That is something that kids tend to be interested in. So we have an opportunity to start things off a little differently. We didn't have time to plan that in the spring. Our teaching staff learned to teach virtually, and some of them did magnificent, and some of them struggled, but they had only a day or two to prepare. So, we're looking at this as an educational experience. Kids can learn about stuff. Kids can learn about things that happen in the world that they could not understand might affect them, but it does. There are lessons to be learned, and it's our job to make an educational moment and a teaching moment out of everything we can do.
Okay, There's more coming here.
Where are these questions coming from?
Oh, people are into it. This is exciting. All right. Sneeze guards and plexiglass will go on some desks, some main offices. The answer is yes. Bathrooms cannot be cleaned after every use. That is a question. Are we meeting the regulations of hours needed for instruction per day in 180 days? Yes. And if it makes you feel better, we do have to submit this to our county superintendent for final approval. So it's not as if we're going totally rogue on this. We're following the governor's regulations. Then we have to submit that to our county superintendent. If there are siblings with different last names, I got that. We're basing it based on address, home address. Sports and clubs. Mr. D, you want to give a quick overview of sports and clubs?
Right now, fall sports are starting on Monday. Picture the football team of 35 kids divided into groups of 10, being socially distanced and trying to figure out an offense that's going to score a touchdown against Lenape Valley. It's not going to be easy, okay? Cross country is starting Monday. That's a little easier because it has a more natural manner in which to distance. I'm not sure that fall sports are going to come about as they usually do. Some people are speaking from the state that football might be moved to the spring. So sports will go on only under the conditions of safety that are allowable by the sport. Clubs and after-school activities will not start in September. We will start them as soon as it is feasible, but it will not be in September.
Okay, more coming through. Related to masks again. Someone asked shields. Can you wear shields instead of masks? I have a question into the county superintendent on this specifically because this has come up. The governor's regulations to us were specific about cloth masks, but I don't know if that was, if he had any intention for to take shields off the table, if that's just what he wrote. I will look at that. Will teachers and students be required to wear specific masks, such as the N95? No, but I will look into the shields. HVAC and ventilation, we do have specific requirements we're supposed to follow on this. Our facilities person, Matt Geary, has been on this. In some instances, we're using this. You want to talk about this?
Negative air.
Negative air, it's exciting.
I don't know why I went to college. So the nurses are legitimately concerned about germs in their office and the lack of possible. Some of them don't have a window. So what do? Mr. Geary, our facilities person, comes up with the idea of negative air, whereby a small machine similar to that is put in a room and the air is pumped out artificially and it's replaced by obviously other air from other sources. So the idea is that allows for ventilation. So as I said, we're doing construction in some nurses' offices. We're doing negative air in others, but we're trying to make sure that we are in compliance. Now, some of the filters for HVAC systems would shut our system down, and they would shut the systems down in many of schools. Okay, so we're learning right now about what we need to do in terms of filters on HVAC systems. More on that to follow.
Okay, someone is asking, this might be specific to free and reduced lunch students, but if students are not there to receive free and reduced lunch, is there a way for them to get reimbursed? That is not.
No, that would not be legal. We would give them lunch.
It's not something we can do.
We would have an opportunity on their off week to have the lunch picked up, or we would let them take home extra on Friday before, but that would be illegal for us.
Question on how will lockers happen is the question. understand this. We, the superintendent and I, are coming up with plans that are district-wide. Some things don't apply to all schools in the same way. I'm trying to answer some building questions as they come up, as I'm able to, but this is a question that the building pandemic response teams would be able to answer and plan for specific to their building. For me to make a wide overarching district regulation on how they approach lockers. Another question was about how often they wash their hands, how bathroom visits are planned. The principals are working with teams that include their nurse, the custodians, staff members, parent, students. They will be best equipped to answer these types of questions, and you'll get those reports from principals when the time is appropriate. Question about whether A/B schedule should be 2 weeks because quarantine is 2 weeks. I understand that, but not everybody's going to get coronavirus the day before that 2 weeks start. So will students have to disclose family members that have coronavirus and then quarantine for 2 weeks? Part of our determining students as they come in will be, have you been in contact with, do you have family members that's part of the process for screening.
Again, parental responsibility. On each bus, there'll be a small sign. Does your child have a fever? Has your child been exposed to anyone with the virus? We would hope that we can trust our clientele not to put that child on a bus if the answer to those is yes.
Couple questions on students that have a balance in their lunch accounts.
The balance is a negative.
All right. More, I mean, we could do this all day. I'll just answer a couple more.
There are no questions left.
Okay, will windows be kept open? We're going to try to keep windows open as much as possible. We're going to try to circulate air as much as we can. We're going to try to get students outside as much as we can, even if that means outside classrooms, walks around the school. I mean, we are going to do our best to not have kids inside. Yes, this could change. This could change still. If the governor changes, the governor, in his document, said be prepared to at any point go back entirely virtual. So you've seen some things from the governor and where restaurants were going to open or things were going to happen and they pulled them back. Things are changing day to day. We have to be adaptable to that. Mr. D, question about Little Chiefs.
Decision has not been made on the Little Chiefs yet. That is there's a class at the high school, a child care CTE class that trains kids for a career working with children. And there's a small group of kids who come in every day, preschoolers, and the kids, it's like a live experiment. That decision has not been made yet. My inclination is to allow that class to go on if the parents are willing to bring their kids in.
And then I'm getting a lot of the same ones. The last one that I saw a couple of is, and you addressed it a little bit, what will be the determining factor that allows a parent to send their child to school on their off week?
As I said, that's something that's under consideration. I have yet to talk to all the principals about that. As I said again, we may be able to do the whole group at the high school if parents opt for that. We may not. We may be able to do the whole group at the middle school. We may not. We have homework to do on that. It's probably going to mean a second survey before we can answer that question intelligently.
And then I think last one here, it must be a teacher, smart, asking if a teacher is instructing for 4 straight hours.
No teacher will instruct for 4 straight hours.
That was going to be my answer, but you stole my thunder. No, that's good. Okay.
We covered a great deal. Is there anything else that somebody needs to say? And I can't have you come to the microphone because we can't share microphones, besides they're not working. So we're gonna limit this to 10 minutes, okay? I gotta, hand it back, was up first, sir, you were second, you were third, you were fourth. Yes. Yes.
Well, there are a number of reasons why we're going for the 4-hour half day. Because it's much more manageable to allow the distancing with half the population in the school.
The question is why, I have to repeat it. The question is why are we choosing to go to half day? This limits the amount of students in the building, is the answer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Well, you only have half the students in the building anyway, whether they're here for 4 hours or 8 hours. But that was part of my question as well. I mean, is there any way for the other half of the day, give an hour from the end of the school day, and the rest of the other 4 hours be virtual for everybody, so that all students can get a full 8 hours or whatever standard school day?
Standard school day is, I think, 7 hours and 5 minutes, whatever, that was lunch. Teachers are expected to, I don't know, I should know the answer to how many minutes the teachers teach. I don't know off the top of my head. We're close, it's probably 5 hours and a number of minutes. We're pretty close to what the maximum number of hours a person can teach in our district is. I just, you're absolutely right, I said at the beginning, I was not there, I'm not answering.
Yeah.
But I think the manageability is easier, and I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna pass on that question, I'll get you an answer.
And I did have one other
Yes,
question.
sir.
Was it ever considered to open Hudson Maxim School to give more space and allow more kids?
Hudson Maxim School was closed because it was dangerous, it's still dangerous.
the question is about Hudson Maxim. I have to repeat, Hudson Maxim is not available to us. Hudson Maxim is closed, we don't own it anymore.
My question was the same as others. Why can't we do 5 hours?
Oh, the other thing is this, I had 2 hours of meetings today. Part of the answer is, we need to sync our busing with our sister districts. So our buses serve Leonard Valley and Byron. So today we had 2-hour meetings on making sure that our schedules allow the pack-on buses go first, they go to Byron, some go to Leonard. We have to sync that. That's part of it. That's part of the reason for the 4-hour day.
Another consideration about the 4-hour day is regarding busing. We share busing with other districts.
But you couldn't do more virtual at the end of the day? I mean,
There will be some virtual at the end of the day. The teachers will get a prep during the prep and lunch, obviously a contractor items, but they're here, and there will be about an hour of virtual learning every day.
And what I was mentioning before regarding the phys ed, that's another example of virtual learning that'll happen after the day. So remember now, a full day includes lunch and phys ed. For us to do lunch would be, not being hyperbolic, almost impossible under the regulations we've been given. So that's, to answer your question specifically regarding half day, when we have them leave half day and give them a lunch on the way out, they can eat lunch at home. They don't have to worry about taking their masks off and social distancing. And they can do phys ed at home. Phys ed and lunch are really difficult obstacles here. And doing those at home makes up for the rest of that day.
One of the terms that was bantered around was practicable. I'm sorry.
Practicable, yeah.
Practicable.
That word came up often.
I would strongly argue the idea that this is not practical. Okay, the distancing is not practical, at least not in the terms that you guys are talking about. So in lieu of a practicable situation, can the kids mask up, get into their classrooms, do school the way they would, and simply argue the idea that this is not practical? It screws everything up.
I humbly disagree with you. The reason we came up with this plan is we think it's workable. We may find you're 100% right.
and we would have to go to a plan B. And we'd have to come up with additional ways, we'd have to get it approved by the state. What we're doing here is we're trying out something that we think can work with the total understanding that this is not a perfect circumstance.
I just have to repeat the question quickly. People are asking what you said. So you, tell me if I got this. It was regarding practicability. It's hard to say that word. Practicability. I don't know. What's practicable, right? So would it be not practicable to do social distancing, and might it be a better plan to have students just go to school as they did, but just all wear masks, so you don't have to worry about social distancing? That was your question, right? Yeah, so look, there are many, many ways we can approach this. I think no matter what way we come up with is not going to be a solution that makes everybody happy. I would encourage you to look what other districts are doing. I think you'll find ours is not really off base of what's happening in some of our neighbors, but it's certainly a consideration, and we'll still consider it.
You got two left. Yes.
My son's in the early preschool program with speech therapy and everything like that. Is that included in the if no A&E mark here under consideration?
Could you answer that, Ms. Catherine?
They'll be going every day. Just like, they'll go every day.
Just like a normal
Just
stuff.
like that little week and the preschool period. We will have AM and PM in the same day. So the AM will be for 2 hours, and then the PM will come in for the 2 hours of back to back.
Okay, and the busing is still the same transportation?
We have still have the same type of transportation, we're just getting different times.
Okay, thank you.
No, the student has a fever. The re-entry of that child, that's the only symptom the child has. That child will enroll protocol after the school nurse. That child will come back. We're not going to be asking to get doctor every time the child. But I get to give the nurses, they don't move on that. They're strong. But as of right now, you know, our role is going to take place. We need to be doing. There's no automatic shutdown. First case happens, no automatic shutdown. Depends on the precinct, depends on what we discover. And I can't get into the we're going to err on side.
Mr. D, we couldn't get a lot of it, but essentially, a fever. Tell me if I'm getting this wrong.
If a child has one symptom, like a fever, we're going to use normal protocol.
I am going to meet with the nurses though, so I said that the nurses may have additional information for me. They're smart. Yes.
This is more for the 6th grade class, or maybe there are maybe
Well, 6th grade will not be changing classes.
Will kids change classes during the day? If I'm a 3rd grade homeroom teacher.
He's a flubber.
6th grade has a schedule. Let's say they have 4 subjects. The 4 subjects will come to the room.
So where possible, we're going to try to avoid unnecessary movement between and among rooms. At the high school level, it's going to be a lot more difficult than it might be at the elementary. You'll understand why. A kid that is in first period chemistry is not also in second period algebra. They're different. That student goes to a different second period class. So it's not practicable to do it at the high school level. Might it be practicable at the 7th grade? Maybe not. Might it be practicable at 6th grade? Maybe. So this is, again, I'm going to direct you to the building pandemic response teams that are going to determine how practicable it is within their building schedule. Where we can avoid it, we'll avoid it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I much thank you for being here. Any additional questions, email Joe or myself tomorrow. As I said, we'll have 2 more meetings before the summer is over.
Can you give us the email? The email?
They're on the website, sir.
Okay.